when we start talking about like gynocentrism and feminism, or we talk about what would be called androcentrism or patriarchy, right? The buzz term for the late 60s, early 70s, like militant feminism was smash the patriarchy, right? Patriarchy is a more balanced system than feminism or gynocentrism. And the reason for that is because under a idealized patriarchy, I'm not saying corrupt, but under an ideal patriarchy, a man has responsibilities to be responsible for his children.
Yes.
We saw when we see a single mother and her child goes out and commits a criminal act or commits suicide or has a drug problem or whatever else, we go, where's the father?
Yep.
That's 20th century. There's no father. You said a woman can do exactly. We're all the same. We're all equal. Men and women are just the same. Blank slate. So why would that make any difference? Well, it does, because there's something in our brain, something in our subconscious, something in our genetics, the way we're wired is to say, where's the man in all of this, right? And the reason why we blame men for a lot of things for being irresponsible is because our innate evolved firmware wants to look for a responsible adult male to come in and take care of this situation. But because the emotionalism has led us all to play the same game and to pander to this idea that it feels better if we say men and women are exactly the same, and a woman can be just as good a father as she can be a mother at the same time and be superwoman about it, then that shouldn't make any difference. But it does to our psyches. It makes a difference. And the reason for that is because patriarchy we expect responsibility from that guy under patriarchy. But patriarchy also says, but you have the authority to do that. And if you're going to be responsible for your family, responsible for your wife, and responsible for your kids, and if they commit a criminal act, you've committed a criminal act. That's the way it used to be, especially under like coverture laws. Like a man was responsible for his wife and his kids, and if his wife killed somebody or his wife,
he would go
to jail because he was responsible for that, because he also had the responsibility to use and exercise the authority that patriarchy granted him to keep her in line and to keep his kids in line. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be this tyrannical, abusive son of a bitch. It means he's going to use that, exercise that as, what they will call beneficent sexism, benevolent patriarchy, right? And what we have right now is we have 100% responsibility for men and 0% authority to exercise that responsibility. Until traditional conservatives are willing to have that argument or have that conversation or talk about, you want to solve the problem, it begins there. Not just take more responsibility, be a better man.
But people won't, because they've still got the feminist indoctrination.
Yeah, exactly. And again, as I said, everybody born after 1965.
Yeah, even speaking in those terms, you are just opening yourself up to be called, at the lightest, you'll be called insecure and misogynist. At the worst, you'll be called, I don't even know, even talking in those terms or even saying that patriarchy is a positive thing. And this has even infected churches.
Oh, yeah.
Massively. You wrote a book on this, right? But that idea, it is frustrating. And the thing I find really fascinating with it as well is it's actually making everyone less happy.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm seeing all of these women, 20 to 40, especially, right, whether they're posting TikToks crying in their car or you're just having private conversations with people and they're speaking very honestly and they're talking about how hard it is to find, a good man and a righteous man and, husband material. Meanwhile, you talk to guys. You have a messed up society when you have all of these men who are saying how hard it is to find a decent woman and to find a wife. And you have all of these women who are saying how hard it is to find a decent man and to find a potential husband. And logically, you would think, okay, this should be quite easy to solve, right? We bring that group together with that group. And, some of it is expectations. I think a lot of it is expectations. I think a lot of it is just unwillingness to be honest with themselves and with others about what people really desire and the type of arrangement that they would
and what they desire at particular times in their lives.
That's true.
So when I was just on Adam Sosnick's show out in Valuetainment out in Fort Lauderdale, and he was going around the panel of girls. It was myself and Mike Sartain, another guy was on there, and he was going around the panel of girls talking about, like, do you plan to get married at some point? And he's running, each one of them saying, yeah, maybe I want kids, blah, blah, blah. He gets up to the girl who's 23 years old. She goes, I am not thinking about marriage or kids or anything like that. And I go, see, and he starts like laying into her. Well, aren't you thinking about your future? Maybe now's the time to think about this, and trying to like, wag fingers and scold her a little bit. I go, Adam, stop. I stopped the show right there. I said, don't go any further, because she's a really good example of exactly what's going on. A 23-year-old woman is at the peak of her sexual market value. That's not even an afterthought for her, because that's her time to be as sexually selective as she wants to. She has the world as her oyster. When men want to fly her out, she's not thinking about that. But when she gets to be 28 years old, she probably will start thinking about that, because now we got to find a guy before the lights at the club come on, and we got to find somebody who's going to be a good, we're going to settle for this guy at 30, the average age of first marriage. But women of that age during that time, they're not looking for the same thing that they're going to be looking for once they get to be a little bit older. And we wonder why. Well, how come you won't do that? Well, the reason why they don't want to sacrifice that peak agency that they have at that time in their life is because first of all, they enjoy it. So we just start with that. But they're not. It's not even an afterthought for them to think that far ahead, because it's not. They've been taught that they need to go and get theirs when they can get it. Because for women, their peak of their agency is going to be like probably around 23, 24 years old. And then when men, that's why I keep saying men need to understand that their peak agency is probably going to be around 36, 37 years old. Right? Now, I'm not saying those two should get together. I'm just saying that's when those peaks are, when a guy's hitting his stride. That's when that's going to happen. But the difference is that we're different people at different ages, or we have different. I should say that we have different priorities when it comes to marriage at 23 than we would at 33 years old, because the chips are down, and we better, like I said, grab a guy before the lights come on at the end of the night. But that's again more fallout from the data age, from seeing her girlfriends on Instagram doing those, living vicariously through her girlfriends or her sister or whatever like that, seeing that. Those are things that we didn't have to, we didn't think of back in the day. Like the quote that I got from you was, human beings were not, I'm paraphrasing here, we're not designed, didn't evolve to have this global communication that we have today, or something very, very close to that. And that's what's kind of like screwing us up.
Like I said, we're running the biggest human experiment in history.
And we don't even realize that we're doing it right now. So everything that we just mentioned, when it comes to responsibility, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to all these things, as far as like the 20th century ideals for those things, and putting them into the 21st century, it comes back to the communication thing right there. Is we've never had this kind of access and this kind of global communication. Like in any other era, I would never know you. Because we wouldn't have these cameras, we wouldn't have the internet or anything. I lived in a time before the internet, and I lived in a time after the internet. And once Gen X is gone, maybe some of once we're gone, that's going to be the last generation that lived prior to that invention that was the internet. And that's why it's weird to me. I think I'm in a unique position here to see how things were before and to see how things are right now.
Yeah.